Now, in a really small organization, mine for instance, John and I get together and we get together with Joel and we will strategize for a half day session. But we do those quarterly and we do those quite often. What I'm talking about is a yearly strategic planning session and then have quarterly updates for organizations that have multiple mindsets. So the communication process is often overlooked at the end. Everyone high fives each other. We had a great time. Let's move on and get this thing happening, and then it dies at that point. But everybody in the organization needs to know what you're doing. I mean, when you think about it, one of the things that if you did this long 3-day offsite somewhere in some beach location, they happen to be on beaches a lot, sometimes in the mountains, but they're usually fun locations. What your people are thinking you're doing is just having a great time. What you're actually doing, you're working your ass off. There is a lot of work that happens in this. So the first question I always have is, why offsite? Why do we have to go offsite? And the typical answer that people give is that, oh, we get your attention, we get your focus, the phone's not ringing. And that's true, but I think there's more to it than that. I think the offsite changes the dynamics of the people in the room. When we get to the purpose portion here, we're going to see that one of the purposes is to build the team a little deeper and a little better than we have before. Spending 3 days with people, intense work during the day, and then some fun activities in the afternoon, evening hours, right? Doing something fun together. The offsite makes a lot of sense. And people get into these in-depth conversations, and it's almost always people that don't normally talk to each other. They're doing something different. So going offsite and having some fun activities makes a lot of sense, not just because the phone's not ringing, not just because somebody's not walking into my office, but because we're in a different atmosphere and we treat each other differently when we're in those atmospheres. It just works like that. But a bigger purpose is that, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and that is the team development. When you look at an organization, you're going to find that there are natural enemies within an organization. The credit department has a different set of objectives than the sales department does. Is that not true? Even the marketing people have different sets of objectives than the salespeople. And they don't see eye to eye on what is happening within this. So why we bring these people together is for you to understand what I think, for me to understand what you think, and then the synergy that happens between us so that we can create plans that are best for us, not just best for me and my kingdom, my sales kingdom or my credit kingdom or my operations kingdom. What we want to create is the set of goals, the objectives, goals, and strategies set that's best for the organization, not just me. All right? That's the purpose. That's why we bring these people together. Trust me, your CEO's smart enough to come up with a plan by him or herself and say, here's what we're doing. In fact, that's the way most businesses were operated. But the fact of the matter is, and I believe this strongly, that we, this collective, this group of people, are smarter than me. I may be a genius CEO, but we, the team that he or she has behind them, is smarter than that individual. They will bring thoughts and ideas that person wouldn't have thought of on their own. Are all of them going to be great ideas? No, they're not. Some things were, but even the bad ideas can spark some ideas and thoughts about how we could implement some new things. So it's really important to get this brain trust together so that we can get some of these thoughts and ideas out that just don't happen usually while we're busy doing our day-to-day work. And the dance is a couple things. The first one is that most of us have CEOs who are dominant figures. They are people that know what they're doing, that they've earned their spot. And most of these people do not want to dominate this conversation. They want to participate in the conversation rather than dominate it. If they wanted to dominate it, they wouldn't have brought you together in the first place, right? So, but they don't want to be left out either. They want to participate. So the dance is why you would bring in a professional facilitator to organize, not just organize the meeting, create the atmosphere, but run the meeting. And the dance, as I call it, is the dance between if I'm the facilitator, between me and that CEO. And trust me, they can't help themselves. They are smart people. They know what they're doing. They've been in this business a long time. They've got all that kind of stuff. And sometimes they can't help themselves. They make statements, right? We anchor on what we think the boss wants. He or she just wants to be part of the conversation. Let's get what's best for us. That's what the CEO really wants. So the dance is really between the facilitator and the CEO to make sure that we hit those objectives. And those objectives are hit with collaboration from the full team, not just what the team believes the will of the CEO is. The facilitator's job is to ask the right questions to get the conversation sparked and to make sure that it doesn't get dominated in one way or another, right? So that we can get all the best ideas and we can come up with the answer that is best for us. That's the dance. That's why I believe we need an outside person, third party, to be able to run these kind of meetings. Joel, up to you.
Great. Thanks all for being here. We have a short amount of time here, and it's very hard to personalize this approach or go into so much detail, but you can tell Scott knows what he's talking about. And we've been able to produce measurable results within those organizations, and those results can range from employee retention and satisfaction all the way to financial growth. And what we're talking about here today is creating that solid offsite strategic planning retreat for your organization, one in which your CEO can participate rather than dominate, and where your leadership team can see from each other's perspectives and create a strategic plan that works best for the organization. And if you'd like to know more, reach out to us to discuss it. That is something we need to do. We can't just say yes or no or opt in. We do like to have a good understanding of whether or not Dr. DeLong can help. And if so, we have that short conversation. We can set up a call with Scott and the CEO where they can make that determination if it's the right process for the organization. We do have a special offer, and that would be good for anyone on this call. And so one thing that we found with most companies, and it's a very common theme, their employees should say they have too many meetings and they can't get their work done because when Scott ends up digging in, he finds out that there are in fact not too many meetings. It's just that their meetings suck and the structure is poor, the wrong people are invited, and the participants are not prepared to participate. So we have a philosophy here that most meetings should be collaborative. If you have nothing to offer, you shouldn't be there. And if it's just going to be a report, email it. We don't need to meet on it. Now, that being said, we believe that while meetings do consume time, they are expensive, they can and should save time, mitigate unintended consequences, and ultimately inspire your teams. And so we have a philosophy and a process that does just that. So for those of you who attended today, we created a one-time offer of a 2.5-hour masterclass on how to make meetings work, following Scott's philosophy. Normally, these classes go for about $400 per person, $399 to be specific. And for those of you on the call today, you have the opportunity to join us for $199, and you can bring a guest at no additional cost, normally $798. In order to do that, simply use the link provided, send me an email, joel@lead2goals.com, or call me directly at 385-645-5390. Scott, I'll put it back to you.
All right, thanks, Joel. I appreciate that. So as we promised, is a gift for being here is we wrote what we call mini ebooks, about 20 pages or so, on a lot of what you heard here, although a little more detail, and it's free to you. So either scan the QR code or take a look at the link there. You go on the website and you can download that immediately and get the strategy behind strategic planning. There is a little more detail than what we were able to do here on the phone, so it's worth the read. And thank you all.